Hello friends, how are you doing today? As part of our 12-week video series, this is the third week and we are going to talk about how you can build a very efficient AI agent enterprise architecture, and we are going to see the blueprints, what are all the components needed to build the AI agent architecture and AI agent architect, how you will know to build an effective AI architecture. These are all the things that we are going to cover in this video, and main thing is there are a couple of charts that I'm going to share, and keep following it and watch this video completely from beginning to end and ask the questions in the comment and we'll discuss further. So normally when it comes to building AI agent architecture, it is very critical if you are an enterprise architect and creating enterprise grade AI agent for your organization, like the Fortune 500 companies, how they pay millions of dollars to implement this type of AI agent architecture. So you must need to follow certain blueprints. So this is the thing that we are going to see in this video. So when it comes to building AI agent architecture, these are all the four fundamental components or core components that you must need to keep in mind. The first one is planner. So what exactly the planner means? This planner component of AI agent architecture contains all the details about what is the purpose of your AI agent and how you are going to plan to execute this particular task for achieving a goal, business goal, right? For example, if you are a sales team and you wanted to generate a quarterly report, generate quarterly report is the prompt that you're going to give it to the AI agent. But the planner has to have the planning details of how the financial data are collected and how the data is analyzed and what is the visualization technique that you must need to use to present the report and what format of the documentation you have to create. So these are all the planning activities of AI agent. So when you build your AI agent architecture, the planner component must have the clear goal of what you are going to use this particular agent for, and also list out all the activities that the planner is going to do. And the executor component is one of the key components of AI agent architecture. Here what you must need to do, you must need to plan the next steps to execute these tasks. For example, generate quarterly report for the sales team, right? You must need to implement this plan with the help of the APIs and also how this execution of generating quarterly report happens. These are all the things that you must have in your executor component of your AI agent architecture. Essentially, this is your agent's hands and feet. This is the one that is going to work on the tools and memory. It is going to create an effective report for your sales team, as an example here. And the third component is the tools component or tools layer of this AI agent architecture. This is nothing but connecting your AI agent or large language model with multiple tools to achieve the task. For example, in this case, generate a quarterly report for sales team. The AI agent has to talk to the databases. The AI agent has to talk to some internal tools in your organization to collect the data. And also, you must need to have the skills to integrate your large language model with these tools. And the fourth layer is the memory layer. The core component, one of the core components of AI agent architecture is the memory layer. Basically, your agent has to remember the things the user inputting to get more details from out of the AI agent. Normally, this is called the short-term memory or long-term memory. Basically, when you build AI agent architecture, you must have these four core components in your AI agent architecture. It's planner, the executor, the tools, and memory. And always keep in mind that if you are creating AI agent architecture, it is not only AI model doing all the work. AI model is one of the key component that is called the engine of your AI agent system, but you must have this planner component, executor component, tools and memory components for making this complete effective AI agent architecture. And how are you going to design this robust planning modules? So when it comes to creating the modules to execute this particular agent architecture, you must definitely clearly define these layers. First layer is intent recognition layer. It understands the business context. For example, sales team wanted to know why the sales are down for this particular quarter, right? So when the question is asked to the agent in this format, it should not just give the answer in one line or one couple of words, right? It has to analyze the decline reason, identify the causes for the sales decline, and also it has to give the solution how to address this problem, right? That is the intent recognition layer of your designing planning modules. And second layer is task decomposition. So when you give a particular task to a agent to complete it, it should not just execute one particular step and stop there. It has to identify what information we need to collect and gather how to get the information from different data sources or different systems, and analyze those collected data and then act on those data by completing all these executions and provide a proper solution to the user. That's how your three-layer planning architecture should be. And the third layer here is executing the planned task with the help of task decomposition. So it has to go and execute the sequence of subtasks, and if there are any dependencies in the subtask, it has to go and complete the dependencies. And also, if there are any failure scenario occurs, your AI agent must address the failure scenario and go in the feedback loop to fix it out by itself. It should not just end up in the failure things. So that is one of the key things that you must keep in mind when you design your AI agent architecture. Keep in mind that the feedback loop is very, very important when you create the executing planning module or layer for your AI agent architecture. And what are all the tools integration? We talked about the planning layer, the executor layer, tools layer, and memory layer. We are coming into understand what are all the tools layers in your AI agent architecture, and how do you configure the tools, and what are all the best practices that you must need to follow, right? So normally when you configure the tools in your AI agent architecture, make sure that you are not giving the static configuration of the tools. What it means, if AI agent is going to talk to one particular tool, and if the tool is not available, it should not end the loop there and fail. It has to go and look at the registry and pick the alternate tool for completing the task. This is called registry pattern in terms of configuring the tools in your AI agent architecture. So normally when you build your AI agent architecture, you configure the planner and the executor. When it comes to tooling, you must make sure that your AI agent is talking to different types of tools. It has the connectivity mechanism to talk to the data access tools, like connecting to the databases, and how to retrieve the file from filing system, and how to talk to the cloud storage access, and also how to make API calls to access the data in particular data source. And also your AI agent must have the analysis tool. Basically, after retrieving the data from data sources, your AI agent must have the analyzing capacity by doing the statistical analysis, and also data visualization generation, and how to build the report, how to calculate the information and provide static analysis for your user. And also it must have the mechanisms to communicate information to different people via communication tools like email senders, Slack, or document generators, or notification system. You must have the proper tools integration with this AI agent. And also you must know how to integrate with different systems. In your organization, you may have the CRM system, ERP systems, and also there are some workflows, and you must need to know like how to integrate the AI agent with these systems by using proper tools. And normally, when you configure tools in your AI agent architecture, you can go with a synchronous approach. That means like it just talks to the tool, get the information quickly, and then give back to the user, right? And second approach is it may have the fire and forget mechanism of just receiving the request from the user and process the request in the offline and gets the response back later, right? So that is called asynchronous approach. That is for long running tasks. So when you pick the tools and configure and build AI agent architecture, you must always follow the hybrid approach. That means you must use the synchronous mechanism for integrating with the tools for certain tasks, and you must need to use the asynchronous mechanism for implementing the task for your AI agent architecture. And when it comes to the security consideration, every tool must have the proper authentication authorization mechanism. If you're talking to the logging mechanisms, you must need to log those details properly. And also your agent has more permissions than the users, right? When you configure this particular tool for a particular user, you must implement all the permissions, roles, and policies. So this is about how to integrate the tools with your AI agenting system, and what are all the best practices that you must need to keep in mind while building AI agent architecture. Moving on to the next section, memory. So as we initially learned, your AI agent architecture must have the four core components: the planner, executor, tools, and memory. When it comes to memory, your agentic system must have the short-term memory, that is called the working memory. Basically, when you do the conversation with your AI agentic system, it may last the 20 to 10 to 20 transaction in the context window. That is called short-term memory. And also it will show, it will keep the memory for the current plan and progress. It will not keep it for the next task. And also it uses the user preferences and temporary data as a session data. That is called the short-term memory. And always size matters. When it comes to the memory configuration, if you keep it too small, it will not keep the context in memory for longer time. It will forget soon. And also if you keep it too large, it is very hard for you to perform, your agent to perform. It will take more token limits and it will slow down the performance. So make sure that when you configure memory, you must need to calculate right memory to calculate to configure with your agentic system. And when it comes to long-term memory, there are three major types of long-term memory. One is that episodic memory. Basically, episodic memory stores specific interactions and outcomes. It will not store everything. For example, if you are a sales team, you want to know about a particular question asked by the user of the system, and for example they wanted to filter the sales targets by region, it will keep this particular context in the memory, and it will always work accordingly when the user asks the question to the agentic system. And semantic memory stores general knowledge and patterns. For example, if your sales team wants to retrieve the data of the sales every fifth of the month, then it will keep this in mind and it will pull the data for every fifth of every month. And also procedural memory stores workflows and optimization. For example, whenever your sales team wanted to generate a report, it has to remember that the report must be in the current country currency. Suppose if the sales team is in US and if they wanted to build the report, all the currency records should be in the dollar, right? So that is one of the example for procedural memory. So basically, when you have this long-term memory configuration for your AI agent architecture, you must need to keep these three memories in mind: epitomic memory, semantic memory, and procedural memory. Use these memories according to your requirement wisely so that your AI agent architecture will be powerful. And also when it comes to implementation approach, always use vector database for semantic search. And also if you want to combine this vector database with the traditional database for the structured data query, use that as well. So this is about memory layer in AI agent architecture. After configuring the tools, memory in your AI agent architecture, you must need to plan about the deployment. Normally, when it comes to the enterprise level deployment, you must focus on multiple deployment options according to your requirement, and also you must pick the right infrastructure for deploying your AI agent architecture. So first one is the centralized deployment. When it comes to centralized deployment, just think about that you built AI agent, and this single AI agent is going to be working for multiple users. In this case, it is cost effective because it is going to be only one agent and it is not going to perform all the tasks. it is going to be used for all the users in your organization. So it is cost effective and also easy to manage because it's one agent, and also it has the shared learning from multiple users. But the potential cons here is like it is not good for the organization that needs individual roles to perform on particular agent. And also it has this security concern and less personalization because this particular agent is shared with multiple users. And the second deployment option is user specific instances. You can create agent for specific users. This will be good because it has the security and it has personalized memory, it has its own tools, and it has isolated failure compared to your centralized deployment. This has an opportunity that it will not impact other users because it's specific to the user, right? But what are all the cons of this particular enterprise deployment option? It is high cost because you must need to have the separate memory and separate tools for each agent. It is not shareable. And also it is more complex to manage because there are multiple systems, multiple architecture, multiple memory, and also multiple tools involved here. Always go with the hybrid architecture approach, that is kind of a shared plan and tools for individual memory stores, but you can use the tools as a shared registry so that this agent specific to a particular user and this agent specific to a particular LOB can share the tool, common tools. But when it comes to memory, keep the isolated memory so that you can get the benefit out of sharing the tools and using the isolated memory. When it comes to a infrastructure consideration, infrastructure is key here. If you are deploying the AI agent in your infrastructure, you must need to take care of all these things. Even if you are using any of cloud of your choice, right? Either IBM cloud or AWS, Azure cloud, make sure that the container orchestration is involved in deploying this AI agent. Why? Because the container orchestration has the high availability built in, and it will independently scale so that you can avoid the scalability issues. And also pick API gateway pattern, because when you talk to different tools and when you talk to different systems, that means your agent architecture talks to different systems. It will always take care of that authentication, and rate limiting and monitoring can be achieved with the help of API gateway pattern. And you must have the observability pattern implemented in your AI agent architecture, because every component needs to proper logging, metrics, and also tracing needs to be properly done so that you can avoid all the bottlenecks. All right. Now we have built AI agent architecture by considering all these best practices while configuring your tools and while configuring your memory and also planning your task and how to decompose the tasks and how to execute the task. All those things have been done. Now you are ready for production, right? So when you do the production readiness checklist, make sure that you cover all these key areas. First one is error handling. Make sure that agent has the fallback mechanism for all the failures. It's not stuck in one place. It has to fall back and continue the flow. And also it should not shut down abruptly. It should have the graceful degradation pattern. And when it comes to error reporting and recovery, there has to be an error reporting mechanism for your AI agent architecture so that you can easily identify where the failure occurs. And another important area your AI agent architecture must have is security. The security has to be across all the layers. When you do the planner layer, executor layer, memory layer, tools layer, everywhere your security component should be properly implemented. And you must cover the vulnerability scanning, make sure that there is no vulnerability in the data side, on the data transaction side. And when you connect to the memory and you use the tools, the vulnerability scanning should be done properly. And penetration testing, which is important when you implement this AI agent architecture, make sure that you do that thoroughly. And also, when it comes to giving the user permission, access policy, etc., you must have the access control policies properly implemented in your AI agent architecture. And as always, data in rest and data in transit should be encrypted properly by using your standard encryption mechanism for your organization. And another important component that has to be taken care while implementing AI agent architecture is performance. So you must need to do the load testing for the entire AI agentic architecture. And also you must have the real-time monitoring to monitor how your AI agent behaves for a particular scenario, and alerting threshold when your AI agent is going to be stopping and what scenarios it is going to be performing better. And scaling policies must also be adopted properly to improve your performance of AI agent architecture. And data management, this is one of the pillars that you must need to keep in mind properly when you implement AI agent architecture, because every agent relies on the data heavily. If the data is not good, your model will not behave good. And if your model is not going to behaving good, your entire business objective will be failing, right? So make sure that your data management is done properly. You should have a proper backup schedule and recovery procedures and data returns and policies. Sometimes you may need to scrap the data which are not required. So make sure that you know the policies details for retaining the data, and also you must have audit logging for all the data in your organization. So now you have got the production readiness checklist, so you can go and implement this architecture in your production, but always follow the ways of implementing it in the sandbox environment, testing environment, and follow all the software development lifecycle for AI agent implementation as well. And also you must need to document these dependencies, configurations, and deployment procedures, so that when you build AI agent architecture for different LOBs, you can reuse these for better implementation. And here is the architecture magic, right? What we covered here. It is simple. When it comes to AI agent architecture, there is no standard procedure followed so far, but these are all the blueprint points that you must keep in mind when you build your AI agent architecture. Complete AI agent architecture with key four components. One is the planner, executor, tools, and memory. And when you design your architecture, always have the three layer. One is to get the insight, and second one is to decompose all the tasks, and third one is to execute the tasks. And tools integration strategies, you must need to keep in mind that you should not be hard coding any tools into your agentic system. And if that particular tool is not available or failing, your agent should not stuck there. It has to go and find the relevant tool in the registry and continue the flow for executing the tasks. You have to keep that in mind. And memory systems, you must keep that how to configure the short-term memory, long-term memory, and how to go with the hybrid approach. All those things that you must keep in mind when you design your AI agent architecture. And when it comes to the deployment options, we talked about multiple deployment options. Here also, you must need to follow the hybrid approach, because for some deployment, you may need to share the tools and memory, or and some deployment you may not be required to share the tools and memory. So according to your business use cases, just go with hybrid approach. And we talked about deployment options and production readiness checklist. And this is the magic here, right? When you build AI agent architecture, follow all these well architected frameworks as you follow for architecting the components to run in your cloud. Similarly, here also, when you build AI agent framework or AI agent architecture, make sure that as an enterprise architect, you follow all these well architected frameworks in AI agentic system. And what are you going to do? Suppose if you are an enterprise architect who is focusing on building AI agent system in your organization, go ahead and follow these blueprint points and try implementing it. And if you have some new concepts coming up with your implementation, just post it in the comment. We'll talk more about it. So we have covered everything about how to build AI agent architecture for your organization. As an enterprise architect, you can go and try implementing this type of AI agent architecture for your organization. And if you like this video, give a thumbs up and share it to your friends so that they will also get benefit out of it. Take care. Bye.